After a few years of effort, I finally caught up with Mike Fremont back when he was almost 96 years old. It was late January of 2018, while he was still 95 years old. I met with him at his home in Cincinnati, Ohio. What a pleasure and honor to get to know him. I had taken the interview and basically turned it into 4 or 5 separate YouTube videos. Back in early June of this year, my YouTube channel got hacked. Sadly, I was not able to locate any backup copies of those videos I created or the original video clips. However, just this week I finally found them. The audio is not as good a quality as I would have liked to have had, but it's definitely worth the time to turn up the volume and listen to what Mike has to say. In fact, Mike inspired me to drop some weight and keep it off. He really drove home the importance of maintaining a steady, healthy weight range. His home is such a reflection of who he is. It didn't dawn on me right away what was different about his home, but it turns out he has not had a television in that house for over 25 years. His home is filled with antiques, books, magazines, awards, rowing and exercise equipment, and his place reminded me very much of my own in that it's a modest-sized home off of a long wooded private drive with green siding and white trim. We both had the unfortunate experience of going through cancer scares. We both are very much into a life built on running. He even was wearing minimalist shoes when I got there. Mike is most passionate about teaching youth about diet and taking care of the environment. I hope you will enjoy gaining some wisdom from somebody with many decades of showing what will work. Worth noting, Harvey Lewis is good friends with Mike Fremont. Both very accomplished runners, both vegan runners, plant-based athletes from Cincinnati. Harvey is just a spectacular person, and I've heard him say that when he grows up, he wants to be like Mike Fremont. And back when I originally created the videos on YouTube, I forwarded that to Trail and Ultra Running Magazine. They liked it and ended up contacting Harvey and they created a story about it. I'll try to find that and put the link into the video description. Harvey Lewis has even posted video of Mike Fremont at, I believe, age 96, doing pull-ups in his house. Each year they get together and run at least one of the Flying Pig races together. So if you have not given serious consideration to transitioning to an all or mostly plant food sourced diet, hopefully this will help steer you. I am fortunate to be here with Mike Fremont, a marathon world record holder for runners over 90 years of age. Mike, you look great. Before we get going into your running accomplishments, is it okay if we start 25 years ago when you were 70 years old and talk about how you handled a cancer diagnosis and being given only months to live?
Sure. 5 years before I was diagnosed with cancer, my eldest son had sent me a book from California where he lived. It was called The Cancer Prevention Diet, I think. And it was written by Michio Kushi. who was an imported Japanese chap who had what was called the macrobiotic diet. And I called him to thank him for it, and I said, "Why'd you send me this?" He said, "You might need it someday." So naturally I didn't read it. But 5 years later, when I was diagnosed, I made a dive for that book.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I read it. And the next day I cleared out my kitchen. I was alone at the time, not married. And I've never gone back
Fantastic.
to the old diet because instead of accepting an operation where they'd given me 3 months to live, if I didn't have the operation, I decided to do the macrobiotic diet, which is almost exactly the same as a vegan diet.
Right. Right. 100% plant-based, or close to it.
Well, almost. They allowed you to eat a couple of kinds of bottom-dwelling fish once a week.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
But no butter, no eggs, and no seafood otherwise.
Excellent. Excellent.
And to the surprise of my assemblies of doctors, including the Cleveland Clinic, the tumor itself began to heal, got smaller with time, and after a year of not running marathons, not racing canoes, in order to keep my immune system strong, it got quite a lot better. However, I thought it was clean and began to go back into competitive running
Yeah.
and canoeing, and at the end of 2¼ years, I began to bleed again and had to be operated for the tumor.
Oh.
I forgot to say that the tumor had metastasized into other organs of the body.
Oh. I did not know that.
And I can't remember whether it was the lymph system or lymphatic system or other, just simply quotation marks, other organs of the body.
So this was stage 4 cancer.
I guess you might call it that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I had to be operated 2¼ years instead of within 3 months.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I wasn't worried. And it had sort of blown past me the statement of the Cleveland Clinic that this is metastasized. If I'd thought about it, and believe it or not, I didn't even think about it,
Wow.
I would have had to have radiation and chemotherapy, which in those days, both of them were much more dangerous than they are today.
Right.
We know a lot more
Well,
about
they
it.
tend to weaken the immune system at the worst
Yeah,
possible time.
Terrible thing to do. So it may have saved my life
Yes.
that I didn't get operated when they told me to.
All right. It's funny how things work out. Serendipity.
And the surgeon said, he told my wife that he had looked in 35 places for metastasis and found none.
And that was
That's
after
the-
being on a
After the effect of being on the diet over 2 years.
2 years worth of a healthy diet. Great. Great. Okay.
So that's how this happened.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, on a lighter note, do you prefer boxers or briefs? And you don't have to answer that. I'm
Yes,
just being
I
silly.
can answer that. Depends.
It depends. So, Mike, were you athletic in high school and beyond?
I would, not really. I used to play tennis, but not for the school,
Okay.
for any school. And at the last school I went to, my senior year, I wrestled.
Okay.
And I wrestled 4 years in college, or 3 years because we graduated. It was during the war. We went to
And
for a long time.
you graduated from high school in what year?
1940.
1940. Okay, so you were born in 1922. Are there still any high school reunions going on?
Oh yes.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Okay, good.
And I went to private school for 1 year in Connecticut and graduated from there in 1940. See.
Okay, okay. Now, what do you love most about running? Now, what do you love most about running?
It keeps me in good physical and mental health.
Yes.
If you've run 5 miles, there's no way you can be what we used to say was uptight.
I agree.
I was under extreme tension at the time I took up running.
And what year was
My wife
that?
had died and left me with a 2-week-old baby.
Oh
and
my.
2 little children besides. And I had a business that was very young. I was responsible for that, and I had the house.
So this
And
was
so-
going back quite a few years.
Yeah, this is 1958.
1958 you started running.
Yeah,
That's mostly a stress release.
yeah.
Wow.
But even before that, if I was out on a beach, I'd just feel a feeling of freedom
Yes.
to run barefoot on a beach.
Barefoot, yes, yes.
And I used to like that. I lived in New England, so we had some beaches there.
Yeah.
When I was going to school and also when I went to work.
Can you tell us about some of the records you've set in sports?
Well, I set a record in the age of 95, which was 2017. I set a record that I never thought I would ever break.
Yeah.
But I hadn't realized that I set this record 9 years ago. 8 years ago, excuse me. And in a 70-mile canoe race.
70 miles.
Yeah. I was the oldest guy ever to have done it, completed it.
Okay.
And at the age of 95, 8 years later, I set a record for the age of 95.
Fantastic.
It wasn't any faster than what I did 8 years ago.
That's okay.
But I did have a partner who was somewhat younger than I both times. The
Okay.
first time he was 44 and the second time he was 55, so I may have accounted for the difference in time.
Well, that's okay. That's okay.
As for running, I ran the Huntington Marathon in 2012. And Bob Krager ran it with me because he was somewhat injured from having run a marathon maybe a month before.
Okay.
And so we had each other to joke with the whole way. And he wasn't under any pressure.
Uh-huh.
And I was under some kind of pressure. And he thought in deference to my age, we're old friends, but in deference to my age, he would warn me whenever there was a curbstone coming, because most of this was within the city of Huntington,
Okay.
or when there were some railroad tracks I should watch my footing on.
Yep. Yep.
So that near the end of the race I said, "Thank you, Mother."
It's good to have somebody looking out for you, though.
So that was that one.
And now that was did you set a world record marathon for your age group there?
That's right.
Okay. Okay.
Single age. They're called World Single Age
Okay.
Records. You can look it up on your iPhone. you know.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's how I first heard about you. Is you set a world age record?
Yeah, the first one was when I was 88 and ran the Flying Pig.
Oh wow.
And that was the year 2010.
Okay.
And I sort of suspected that I might be pretty close to the world record, but I didn't really study those figures, and someone else began to put pressure on me. Why don't you look into it?
Yeah, yeah.
And the Flying Pig Marathon dragged its feet. So that brought a little pressure to bear on them. Finally, they signed all the proper documents you had to get accredited.
Oh, okay, okay.
And so the third one, which was really quite nice, was the what they call the Morrow Half Marathon,
Yes.
which starts on the Little Miami Bike Trail, goes out the bike trail and back.
Near Loveland, Ohio?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful area.
Oh, it was wonderful. And I ran out of my hydration supply, not hydration, but electrolyte pills. And I think I could have maybe done it 10 minutes faster if I had.
Really? Wow.
But I did that in 3 hours and 19 minutes, I believe, the half marathon. And it was substantially faster than what they had on record.
Wow.
It's very, very thin at that age.
Yes.
There's hardly anybody out there.
Well, you've got healthy feet and knees.
Yeah, and I don't overload them.
Yes, yes. Well, diet plays a huge role there too.
If I may make a remark, you may not want to print this, but probably the fastest runner that we will ever see was Ed Whitlock,
Okay.
who did a marathon at the age of 86 in something about 3 hours.
I heard about that. Yeah, yeah.
He died last year. 86, he died.
Yes, yes.
But I looked at him, and I'm an engineer, and I thought, well, wonder what his measurements are. Well, he was 5'8",
Okay.
and he weighed 112 to 115.
Wow.
And if I'm 5'3", I shrank. I was 5'5".
Okay.
And I thought, if I were proportionately his weight,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, if I were the same build he was,
Yes.
I would be 32 pounds lighter
Oh, wow.
than I am.
Yeah, yeah.
I weigh 125.
Okay.
That's my racing weight. I wrestled either 121 or 128 pound class at college.
Okay. Okay.
So the secret is in having no body, but having a good heart-lung system.
Yes, yes. Less
Be
body
willing
fat.
to suffer.
Yes, less body fat to carry and be willing to accept some pain.
Duplicated. This is rarely understood. I think you were talking about the turbaned
Torpedo.
Torpedo. I think you're talking about Fauja Singh,
Yes.
and I never met him. I thought of going up to meet him in Toronto. A handsome guy, but he was also 5'8", and he weighed, I think, 115.
Okay. And he's well over 100 years old now.
Yes, he is. He was born in 1911, and he couldn't prove that he was as old as he said he was, because he, A, illiterate, and B, they didn't have birth records in India where he grew up as a farmer.
Oh.
He was never able to prove his age.
Okay.
And because he was illiterate, I think he may have, maybe they told him lies about his age, I don't know. But here you have again the same thing, no body,
Right.
but good stamina, good heart, lung system.
Yes.
And
Yes.
he was on a pretty good diet.
Yes, he's vegetarian, almost vegan.
So the secret, if you want to really be fast, is to have a trivial body.
Yeah, yeah.
But I have to race canoes too. And my son, my local son, Tom, and I ran that together.
That was the Indianapolis
Yeah.
half marathon,
Uh-huh.
world record.
Yeah. And we got too close to a fence, you know, one of these velvet fences they have
Sure.
with posts. We got that fence post, we had to turn left around in order for the finishing passage through the electronic mats and so on to measure your chip time. And we crashed.
Oh,
I went down
and this was how long ago?
near the finish line.
Oh. And you still set a world record.
Got up, dusted ourselves off, and I finished it and said it was 3 hours and 19 minutes, I think,
Okay.
which is a terrible, terrible time. But here again, there's no competition. No competition.
Yeah, yeah. And not too many people are still running at age 95 where you are now. And you're going to be 96 very soon, I hear.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
About 3 weeks.
Wow. Okay, well, I caught you still on your 95th year. That's great, because I'd like to come back and do this again when you're a centenarian at 100.
Sure, I can't promise you.
I just learned that you've run the Boston Marathon about 16 times.
I qualified 16 times and
Okay.
probably completed 13.
Wow. Okay.
And the only reason I ever dropped out of a marathon was because I didn't need it and it was too hot. And, well, I had a good one for you. I've forgotten. Anyway, this was when I was 83, and it was my last Boston. Because
Okay.
from that time on, I couldn't run a marathon in less than 5 hours.
I see.
Even though I might be the best in the world for my age, it
Yeah.
wasn't good enough for Boston.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
So I decided that henceforth Boston wasn't good enough for me.
Mike, do you have any pre-race rituals?
Well, you could say it's a ritual not to eat breakfast the morning that you're going to run.
Okay. Nothing at all.
No,
Okay.
but I've taken various potions and solid stuff over the years. Right now what I do in a long race is use goo,
Okay. Okay.
and I use the chocolate kind because it has caffeine in it. Most goo has caffeine in it, but I realized how important caffeine is in a race.
Yes. Yes.
Because I tried it once in the Oxford, Ohio half marathon they used to have. And I was running with 3 women, and one of them dropped out. We picked them up on the way. And on the way back, a half an hour before I judged I would finish, I took a caffeine pill. And pretty soon the woman who was still running with me said, "You speeded up." I said,
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of it myself, but I had.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I love coffee or the caffeinated gels.
So that's sort of a ritual, you might say.
Okay. Good.
Otherwise, I train, I run a long, like a 15-mile practice run before a half marathon.
15, okay, a few days before?
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Not too many days, because I don't really run it for speed. I run it to get the feel of the distance, you know.
Okay, okay.
As I
And
used to run 20s before a marathon.
really?
Yeah.
How many days or weeks before?
Oh, maybe 5 days before.
5 days, okay. A lot of people say 3 weeks is the time to do that run.
Well, they're delicate.
And at 95, you're not. That's great.
As a matter of fact, at Sharon Woods, my wife had bought me a Garmin watch for Christmas, and I did a 20, and I realized I set my time by the watch, you know, 20 miles. And I picked up 2,000 feet vertically.
Okay.
I gave it back because it ended up where it started.
It was a loop.
But 2,000 feet is a significant little mountain.
Yes, yes.
So it's a great place to train.
Yeah, yeah.
Much of it through the woods, as you know.
So that's a good pre-race ritual right there, running hills. Rumor has it that you still do regular pull-ups. Tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about how strong you are.
How weak I am. Well, you know, if you're a lot smaller than the average guy, you begin to feel a little defensive at times.
Yeah, yeah,
So you naturally want to arm yourself against that.
yeah.
So one way was to become some kind of an athlete, be able to do things that other people couldn't, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that from the time I was a little boy.
Gotcha.
So I didn't really feel that I was weakening any until I got really up into the 80s. Then I felt I was losing muscle mass.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
And then since that time, they've been publishing how natural it is for people to lose muscle mass when they get old.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And they lose their hearing, they lose their eyesight, they lose their sense of smell, they lose their sense of taste, and then their minds go. So I'm witnessing all this stuff and still able to write about it.
Yeah, yeah.
Or talk to you about it.
There you go. And you can still do the pull-ups.
Yeah, I can do a few pull-ups.
All right. That's fantastic, because I have a hard time doing a few.
Working to get back where I was, where my nephew was able to do as many as I could, which was at the time 13.
Wow, okay.
13 miserable little pull-ups.
Well, that's still something, yeah.
But I'm not up there yet.
Okay. Keep working at it. There's another famous endurance runner in the area, a friend of yours, Harvey Lewis, who noted that you have not been sick or had a cold in about 20 years.
27.
27 years,
Yeah.
really?
And I can only attribute that not to running, but to diet.
Diet, yes.
And maybe I had a cold.
What are some of your favorite foods and simple meals?
Well, I had, believe it or not, a new favorite food for breakfast this morning, which was some firm tofu, crumbled up,
Okay,
mixed with onion, mixed with frozen corn,
okay.
as an imitation scrambled egg dish.
I do something very similar. I add turmeric to the firm tofu and scramble it till it looks like eggs. Yeah, it's so good. It's good with black beans and salsa.
I haven't tried that yet.
Yeah, it makes a good burrito, breakfast burrito. Any other favorite quick plant-based meals?
Actually, not. As I told you, at my age, you've lost a lot of your taste buds. And when an old woman I know had us to dinner and was telling us that she absolutely couldn't stand American wines, they had to be French wines. I said to her, Elaine, at your age, you don't have the taste buds
To know the difference?
to distinguish.
Oh, shoot. Mike, you had mentioned that you've read John Robbins' book, Healthy at 100, and in fact, you've met John Robbins over the years. That's one of my favorite books, and what we learned from the various groups of people that are written about in Healthy at 100 is that they all shared a diet that was 90 to 100% from plant-sourced foods. They were active, and they all came from cultures where cooperation was more important than competition, community-based. And one of the unique aspects of those cultures was that the eldest members very frequently lived to 100 and beyond with good eyesight, good hearing, able-bodied, productive lives. And they were so revered at those ages that oftentimes they would actually lie about their age and exaggerate it upwards. So many, many years ago, those people sort of lost a little credibility because they might say something to, they might tell people they're 120 when they were only 105.
Yeah, okay. That's how it happened.
Yeah, yeah. So, what's your experience with John Robbins and his writings?
I went to hear John at the medical school when he spoke. I remember it to be 1995.
Okay.
And I read his books, such as they were in those days. I was impressed with them. And I had recently completed a paper, a 12-page paper, on the relationship of diet to a number of economic issues in the world, not just this country, and in the future, including global warming. And I handed this stack of papers to him.
Mm-hmm.
I said, read this on the plane going back. And since that time, his son joined him,
Ocean.
Ocean Robbins. And Ocean was on the board, I think, of either Friends of the Earth or American Rivers, both national organizations. And I was on the board of American Rivers from its founding. I was one of its founders in 1973.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Ocean, I don't think, was born then. And so I had a little bit in common with him.
Sure.
On appreciation and understanding of rivers. That's all I know about John, except that the two of them worked quite well together.
Good.
In what they're doing.
Mike, I understand that you still run quite a bit each week. Can you tell us more?
Yeah. A few years ago, I was averaging 35 miles a week. And I thought, that's a little stiff. Takes so much time. I'm so slow. I'm going to knock that down to 30 miles a week.
Okay.
And instead of going over there 7 times a week, I'll only go over there 3 times a week. So that means I'll do 10 miles a day.
10 miles a day, 3 times a week, every year round?
Yeah, except when it gets too cold.
Okay.
Or I'm not in town.
Yeah, yeah.
And I've been doing this at Sharon Woods for probably 40 years.
Wow.
So that people, the regulars, sometimes have dogs, I encounter constantly, especially if you run at the same time each day. They do too, they walk. And they'll stop me and say, I'm just curious, how old are you? And I've seen you walking around this lake for at least 15 years. And I said, you just insulted me. I'm pretending to run.
Well, the main thing is you're moving as fast as you can.
And I know that not only their habits, the time of the day they appear, but the dogs' names sometimes, and for the last 3 generations of dogs that they've walked with.
Fantastic.
So that's one of the reasons it takes so long for me to do 10 miles. I stop and talk to people.
That's one of the joys of running is all
It
the
is.
people
It
and
is. It's social.
yeah, yes, yeah. And you've got your regular group of running friends out there?
Yeah, but they all run, so they ignore me. we meet formally at 8 o'clock in the morning on Sundays.
Yeah, yeah.
And after that, they go their way and I go mine because I can't run as fast as they do.
Gotcha. Okay.
Unless they're injured, at which point they want to run with me.
All right. So then you get to help each other out. And I understand that you've been doing some barefoot running decades ago before it sort of became a fad.
Well, I remember when it became a fad originally in the Boston marathons. I ran my first Boston in 1973.
Okay.
And there were a few guys who ran barefoot in Boston. And I was impressed. I know that you can walk barefoot as long as you accustom your foot bottoms to the sand and then the gravel.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Gravel. And that's the way we were born.
That's right.
And it's fun, but you have to have a place to accustom yourself
Yes. Yes.
to it. And you have to be young enough so that if it's cold,
Mm-hmm.
you can handle it.
Yeah. But you did some beach running barefoot back in
Oh,
back
yeah.
in maybe your high school days, or
Whenever I got to a beach.
yeah, anytime, huh?
And it was probably always less than 5 miles
Okay.
in those days.
Okay.
So you didn't really stretch your seat, but you may get a blister or two. But
Yeah. Yeah.
these days, if I go south in the winter, I want to run barefoot a few days, not very far.
Yeah. Yeah.
Accustom my foot bottoms to it so that I can run long distances.
The sun sure feels good on the toes.
Oh yeah, it's lovely.
Do you feel like you recover from your runs fairly quickly?
Yeah.
And why? What would you attribute that to?
Well, actually, I think if you put the question that way, I would say I can't run fast enough to get tired.
Well, but if you're out there doing 10 miles at age 95,
10 miles is no sweat.
yeah, yeah.
I could run a marathon if you give me the time. As a matter of fact, when I gave up marathon running at the age of 90, I said, okay, I've set a world record. What further is there? And I thought if somebody really wants me to run a marathon, I'll do it, but for a big price for my favorite charity.
There you go. There you go.
$20,000.
Ooh, that's big.
Because I would have to sequester a certain amount of my year to doing a decent time in the marathon.
Yes. Yeah.
It's the time that counts.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've raised that price now to $30,000. Of course, there's inflation as well.
There you go. Maybe somebody will take you up on that. Mike, do you focus much on consuming organic plant-based foods?
Yeah. If you can get it, it's worth it.
Okay.
If you can afford it.
Yeah. Yeah. So mostly organics, and you've been 100% plant-based diet now for how many years?
27.
27. Okay. Okay. That's a long time. You
Well,
don't.
that was the effect of Michio Kushi's book. I did allow myself the amount of fish that they said, but frequently didn't get that much.
Yeah. Yeah.
because it was the wrong kind of fish, or I didn't really care for the way he said prepare it, which is just boil it or steam it.
And that was a trivial amount.
No oil, you know.
Correct.
No breading, no, which is oil.
Mike, if you could say a few things to all of this year's high school and college graduates, what would you want to teach them?
I would like to teach them about global warming
Okay.
and what they can do about it with no trouble whatsoever,
Okay.
and prolong their lives,
I hear you.
and become expert athletes,
Yes.
which ought to turn them on a little bit.
So specifically, you're talking about a mostly organic, all plant-based diet being the most important thing that people can do to stop global warming.
Absolutely. No question.
Okay, I agree.
I'm not asking you to change your style of government, because that's the next thing.
Yeah, yeah,
We can't keep producing and producing and producing and wasting and throwing it away,
yeah,
because the earth is limited in what it can offer. Running is, it's important to me because I'm used to it, I'm happy with it, I do well in it, but it takes an awful lot of time to do all I do to maintain my status at this great age.
yeah, yeah,
And if it weren't for the fact that I'm trying to change the nation's diet, I wouldn't be putting in all these hours.
yeah. Well, thank you for doing so.
And it's the one thing I have found that I can do that can contribute, despite my age.
Yes,
If I can be an example of what people can do in their old age and help their fellow person.
yes.
That's what I do. That's what I do. That's why I know these guys like Colin Campbell and Neil Barnard.
Ellen DeGeneres has a very popular daytime talk show. She also promotes an all plant-based diet. If she were to call you to be interviewed on her TV show, would you go?
Probably, I would want to know a little bit more about it, because we don't have TV.
Really?
Effectively, we haven't had TV for the length of my marriage this time, which is some 25 years.
Wow.
But we read profusely.
Uh-huh.
So Ellen DeGeneres seems to be a free-spirited person. I think that she was gay, and then she decided she's not gay. And these are things that preoccupy the American public, especially certain religious sects that I have zero interest in, because I think, let's live and let live.
Yeah, yeah.
So I would certainly agree, because that's the specific thing about her, except that she has a sense of humor, and she's very entertaining.
Well, she reaches an audience of many millions of people who need to hear what you're trying to teach people.
Uh-huh. People frequently want to have their pictures taken with me for whatever reason. Maybe they hear I'm a record holder, or
Yeah.
that I'm as aged as I am.
I heard you joking with Harvey that you don't buy green bananas. So I brought you a bunch of green bananas. I'm an optimist, and I'd love to interview you again in the future, however many times, but particularly in, I guess, early 2022, when you're 100 years old. So I don't think you need to worry about buying green bananas. You seem very strong and healthy to me.
Well, Randy, in the hopes that you would be there, I would say yes.
Mike, do you have any favorite joke you'd like to share?
Well, I do have one I invented. It's my joke, and my wife doesn't approve, because she says it's an ethnic joke. And I said, well, it really isn't I don't think it is. I would tell it to a Chinese person.
Okay.
And so when somebody complains about the weather, I said, you better consider the weather forecaster we have. She's new at the job. And she's a Chinese American.
Mm-hmm.
And her name is Norma Lee Wong.
That's good. You made that one up, huh?
That's mine.
Thank you so much for watching.